Greetings, Indie Warriors, and welcome to I Dream of Indie Games. I'm Ol Gamer Joe, and while we've celebrated many fantastic indie releases here on the channel in 2024, as with any year, there have been a few stinkers that dampened our fun. Today we're diving into the 5 most disappointing indie games of the year. So hold your noses and get ready, or feel free to tell me why I'm completely wrong about these titles in the comments below. One thing we can all agree on though, supporting indie visibility, that's amazing. Head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and you'll gain Discord access, early ad-free shows, shoutouts at the end of every video we produce, and so much more. Your indie gaming community is waiting for you. Alright, first up on our list is Little Big Adventure: Twinsen's Quest, a remake of the now 30-year-old 3D action-adventure game developed by Adelaine Software. Fondly remembered by many, the original game sold over 500,000 copies, a remarkable achievement for its time. Set on the fictional planet Twinsen, the story follows a quetch named Twinsen, who is confined to an asylum due to his outlandish prophecies and thoughts. And I just realized a lot of you probably won't know what a quetch is, but play the game and you'll figure it out, if you want. Well, I guess I'm telling you not to play this version, but you get what I'm saying. Players must help Twinsen escape and thwart the nefarious Dr. Funfrock's tyrannical rule. The game features a diverse range of species and carries a dark undertone. Unfortunately, the remake introduces some unwelcome changes to the beloved original story. If these changes weren't bad enough, any attempts to fix the original's gameplay end in disaster. Combat is about as much fun as summer in Florida, the stealth as entertaining as being stuck in traffic while having to take a piss, and the illogical puzzles haven't aged particularly well. Glitches also hindered my playthrough, with the game crashing multiple times. I ultimately had to ask myself why this game existed at all. It's a remake of a game that really didn't need a remake to start with, and if anything, does a great disservice to the original. Some things are better left in the past. Next on our list is the, I don't know how to even say this nicely, I'll just say RPG, sure, Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire, released just a few months ago. As a huge fan of Skies of Arcadia, the game that clearly inspired this one, I desperately wanted to love Sky Oceans, but it completely crashes and burns. The game is a borderline broken experience, featuring some of the slowest, most exhausting turn-based combat I've ever encountered. And this is coming from a huge JRPG, RPG fan. I just love anything RPG, okay? I've played them since I was like 9 years old. This one made my blood boil though. It's actually still pissing me off thinking about the combat right now. The poor graphics, awful dialogue, and numerous glitches had me pulling my hair out, and there's not that much hair left, let me tell you. The story here is about as engaging as an infomercial for the Snuggie. The plot is poorly written, and with not a single character worth caring about. While the idea of sky-based combat is intriguing, the execution just isn't there. I can appreciate Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire trying a few new things, but none of these ideas come together to create an enjoyable gameplay experience. So instead of listing all the reasons you shouldn't play this abomination, might I suggest a few more enjoyable activities? Eating pizza, that's great, playing Monopoly, gardening, or even just scratching your balls if you have a nutsack. Yeah, scratching your balls is more entertaining than playing this game. Just be thankful you weren't forced to review it like I was. I'm still waiting for a proper tribute to Sega's classic Skies of Arcadia, but it seems the wait will be longer than I had hoped. Seriously, don't play this game, it's not good. Next on our list is the indie horror game Pneumata. The signs were there that Pneumata might not be a great title. It went through multiple delays and honestly had a very sloppy PR campaign, ultimately releasing to little fanfare or press. That's where I Dream of Indie Games comes in, and our very own Barely Magic Mike had the displeasure of playing through one of 2024's worst games. From the lack of direction to the poor combat, Pneumata was a clunky mess of a game that tried to capture the spirit of modern Resident Evil titles, but ultimately failed. The game succeeded at one thing, however, scaring off players with its terrible controls and voice performances. The shooting mechanics are dreadful, melee combat is atrocious, environments are bland and stagnant, and the inventory is just about broken. Pneumata is a game that never teaches the player much of anything, while also having seemingly nothing to say to its audience from a narrative standpoint. While the developers show some talent, we sincerely hope their next project receives much more attention and care, assuming we ever see a next project from them. As it stands, Pneumata is horrifying for all the wrong reasons. Alright, I am admittedly not the biggest Souls fan in the world, but I do dabble with the genre from time to time. Typically, when I play a Souls-like game, it feels like walking into the same glass door repeatedly, only occasionally breaking through after 150 attempts at the same boss. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but actually, maybe it isn't. Either way, I thought I would challenge myself this year by taking on Deathbound, but that proved to be a grave mistake. Not because of its difficulty so much, but because of how aggressively annoying it is. My annoyance with Deathbound partially stems from losing my save progress while playing, but even putting that aside, this game isn't very good. The concept itself is strange to begin with. It's a single-player, party-based Souls-like. Yes, that's how the game was marketed. You switch between characters on the fly, kind of like Marvel vs. Capcom, but the difference is that was a fun fighting game, and Deathbound is a Souls-like game, and a not fun one. The combat system falls flat, as does the narrative. Characters are pretty generic nobodies, and the sound design is strangely ominous, offering very few musical compositions at all. I really wanted to get back into this genre this year, but Deathbound only served to push me further away. There are some interesting concepts here that I wouldn't mind seeing fleshed out in a better future game. Alrighty, last but certainly not least, on the topic of death, we have a Death Noodle Delivery. Did I hear a lot about this game this year? I don't think I've ever seen Barely Magic Mike this frustrated with a review before, but Death Noodle Delivery nearly pushed him over the edge. Thank you so much for not quitting again, Mike. This game tries to mix a cyberpunk aesthetic, I guess, with classic paperboy gameplay. That's a cool idea, but Death Noodle Delivery fails to deliver. See what I did there? Imagine if every article in the morning newspaper was an obituary or an ad about erectile dysfunction. That would still be more interesting than delivering newspapers in Death Noodle Delivery. The game's 2-hour runtime will feel like the longest 2 hours of your life. The main character likes to reference taking a shit throughout gameplay, and honestly, I think I would rather read a few Goosebumps books on the crapper for 2 hours than ever experience Death Noodle Delivery again. It's laughably bad writing, use of AI artwork, and dreadful gameplay segments make for one of the lowest reviewed games in I Dream of Indie Games history. Horrendous writing, awful difficulty spikes, and one of the silliest plots we've ever encountered are just a few of the reasons you need to flush this one down the drain. But in all seriousness, we really hope all of these developers can learn from this experience. We want every game to be amazing here at I Dream of Indie Games, and hope that through failure comes great success in the future. Thank you all for watching, we hope you were entertained, and now let's get back to some awesome indies. Voice to the voiceless.